Hey, it's Evan Gilbert from Block E Media Incorporated, and I'm super excited for you to be able to watch this upcoming interview that I have with the Tom Wang. I was just out for a run a bit earlier. That's why there's the big green space next to me. Got my shorts and runners on. I don't know if you're able to see that with the sun out. But yeah, I'm coming back out with another interview. We got tons more interviews on the way with incredibly inspirational entrepreneurs and digital marketers. And this is the spot if you want to be able to learn about digital marketing, digital advertising. This is the channel for it. So if you guys got some value from this video, I would greatly appreciate a like, subscribe as well. I know that like 90 to 95% of you that watch these videos aren't even subscribed to it, which is just mind-blowing to me. So yeah, anyway, I'm gonna wrap up this intro and get back to my run, but yeah, enjoy this interview with Tom Wang out here in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. Huzzah! So today I'm here with Tom Wang, and Tom is almost kind of like a legend here in Vancouver where I'm from right now. He's grown his Amazon FBA business like tenfold. I think from what I looked at from one of his last videos that he was up to 400K in revenue just in one of the months. I think it was either beginning of this year or at the end of last year in 2019, which is huge, big numbers inside the field. So yeah, without further ado, I'm going to give it off to Tom. So Tom, if you want to give a bit of introduction for yourself, a bit of your background and how you got into Amazon FBA.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me on the podcast, by the way. I wouldn't call myself a legend, Evan. I'm just the guy from Vancouver that figured things out, and now I'm kind of sharing what I found out with other people so they can hopefully replicate my success. But yeah, so quick introduction. I was born and raised in China. I lived in China for 10 years before my parents immigrated from China to Canada. And we were very poor. My parents, they had great jobs in China, but they left everything behind for a better life for myself. And I remember when I was a kid, I wanted to play all these different types of sports because in China, you don't really focus on sports, you focus on school. When I came here, everybody was playing sports and soccer and hockey. And I was like snowboarding. I was like, I want to do that. I want to do that. I want to do that. But they basically just told me like, we don't have any money. So from there, I kind of started, not resenting them by any means, but resenting the situation that we're living in. And I said, when I'm older, when I grow up, I want to be rich because if I'm rich, I can do sports. I can do all these different things that I want to do. So from there, I tried so many different types of side hustles. I'm talking about, the paper route, lemonade stand. I remember that there's a bank. It's a very small bank locally.
Coast Capital,
No, they have
Van
an
City,
orange, a tangerine,
Tangerine. Oh, okay, Tangerine.
tangerine, super small bank. So Tangerine had this promotion when I was, I think 18 or 19, where if I got you to sign up for Tangerine, Ivan, you get 250 bucks, I get 250 bucks. And there's different tiers. So if I keep promoting the $250, I will go from $250 to $500 to like $700 to like $1,000 per sign up. So like affiliate marketing pretty much. And I saw it. I'm like, holy shit. Like can I curse on like,
I don't give a shit, dude.
okay. All right. So I was like, holy crap. I mean, like, this is insane. I can promote this. It's free money for them, free money for me. So I started blasting through my Facebook list and just messaging people like, hey, I know we haven't talked in like 8 months, but you can get 250 bucks right now. Just like stuff like that, posting ads on Craigslist, selling watches. But obviously none of them were sustainable. I had no idea what I was doing, but it just made sense for me that there's a lot of different ways to make money. And I wanted to try those different ways. Um, and then I got a job, and at my job, I did pretty well, but I was like, I'm not going to do this for the rest of my life. Just, like that would suck. That would suck a lot. Like, I can't imagine myself when I'm 40 doing this. Like, even though I was getting paid a 6-figure salary, there's no way I was going to do this for the rest of my life. So I found Amazon through selling hoverboards. I tried to sell hoverboards online, didn't work. I tried selling them on Craigslist, kind of worked. A lot of people bought my hoverboards on Craigslist. I met up with people at sketchy places, and
Hastings in Maine, or
no. That's a little too sketchy. I'm like, can you move over? Can you move over a couple blocks?
yeah,
That's the no go
Cordova.
area.
Yeah.
But I said, Yeah, and then turns out 80% of the hoverboards I sold were defective. So people called me after a couple of days. They're like, the hoverboards literally start having seizure. Like someone would step on it, it would just like shake. So and so I found out that it was because of the motherboard. So I actually ordered a bunch of motherboards from China because they're fast to ship. And I went to people's houses and literally took out their old motherboard and I put the new motherboard in. And so I learned how to fix hoverboards with a screwdriver. And someone approached me and it's like, hey, I can sell these for you on Amazon. I'm like, really? Amazon? So that's kind of how I first discovered Amazon back in 2015. Didn't do anything with it for a little while. But in 2017, me and my girlfriend, we launched our first product. Obviously failed just because anything you try the first time, it's probably not going to do that well. Your first podcast is going to suck. Your first YouTube channel is going to suck. Your first whatever is going to suck, but you just keep sucking and then slowly you turn good. And yeah, and then that's that. And first year we did like $130,000 in sales. Not too much because that's in sales. That's not revenue. That's not profit. In the Amazon world, about 30% of that is profit, just for the listeners. And then second year we did like 1.6 or 1.8 million. I forget, something like that. And then last year we cracked 300,000. Sorry, going backwards here. 3 million US dollars. So that's great. And then this year, hopefully we'll crack like, I don't know, we're trying to aim for like 5.5 million. So yeah, that's kind of my story. But yeah, that's kind of my story in the gist.
That's awesome. Yeah, because it's amazing to see someone like yourself preach about failure and preach that about like sucking at
Yeah.
first, because that's what most people are scared of, is sucking. And I think that has to do with 12 years of indoctrination for school and learning how not to fail and
Yeah.
learning just scraping by either the bare minimum or just being so terrified of failure that it's just a huge setback that you're going to get a talking to from your teacher or your
Yeah.
parents and whatnot. So it's pretty ingrained, especially in like Western culture. It's very, very much ingrained, and even in Chinese culture, because I've growing up in Richmond. I have so many Chinese friends, and yeah, that was one of the things, like going to their place or whatnot. Like they had very, very strict parents growing up, especially in the school area. So just failing was incredibly terrifying, not even just for themselves and their future. It's mostly the wrath of like other people. Why failing is such an important thing for us to be able to learn, and why a lot of people just don't really learn it at such a young age. It's kind
Yeah.
of one of those things where we have to learn it on our own, be it if we sell hovercrafts where 80% of them are or don't end up working or anything because what was it? It was like a hoverboard malfunction on it.
Yeah, it was just like literally start having seizures and
Oh
and
my
it
god.
was shaking very violently. It was
Yeah.
scaring people. They're like, "Are you sure this is gonna not gonna explode?" I'm like, "It might."
It might not. Got to figure
Yeah.
it out though. But you figured it out though. You solved a problem there where you just ordered the hoverboards and you installed it yourself.
Yeah, I learned how to do it yourself. So
Nice,
yeah,
nice.
that was
Yeah.
cool. But
So
I think anybody can figure out anything as long as they put enough work into doing it. And I know it sounds so cliche, but it's true. Like, like we're all made equal. I don't think God has made us, you Evan better than me or me better than you. We're all literally made equally, and I think the only common denominator is some people are hungrier than others, and some people are willing to work harder to get to that place more than others. So if you're hungry and if you are someone who want a better future, now there's a lot of people that don't want a better future. Maybe I think everybody wants a better future, but maybe they don't want it bad enough. They're like, we're okay. I'm okay with just, sitting in my bedroom and playing games all day. If you're happy, if you're stoked about playing video games all day, and fulfilled and doing that, then hey, keep doing that. But I don't want to play video games all day. But which, by the way, funny enough, ironically enough, like you can probably make a lot of money playing video games these days. Like the e-gaming sports is blowing up. It's absolutely insane. These guys are making millions and millions of dollars. But also that's very competitive. You got to be really, really good at it. So um yeah, failure is literally, I tell people, like, you can't do something great if you don't fail. Like, it's impossible. If you find anybody who's never failed and is successful, I would give you whatever you want, because I just know for a fact that the more successful you are, the more failures you will have, just because it is the same. It's ingrained. It's the same thing. Okay, like it comes. If you want success, you're gonna have failure. If you want failure, you're actually gonna have success. It's the same. It's the food is served on the same plate. So.
Exactly. I love that analogy right there. Do
Mhm.
you think that when you're growing up in the scarcity mindset right in the beginning, where you're seeing your friends play a lot of different sports, do you think that that was a huge motivating factor for your growth later on for Amazon FBA?
I just wanted a better future I mean, there's times where my mom was working like 3 jobs and I see her like really, really down. Money was tight. There was a lot of tension between my parents. There was a lot of things that we couldn't do. I remember even sometimes if we have to drive far away, like for example, Harrison Lake, Hot Spring, it's like 2 hours drive, whatever. Like they would actually be like, okay, how much money does that cost in gas? Like I obviously that is something that they had to think about because the money was tight. But for me, it was like when I grow up, when I can start making money, there's 0% I'm ever gonna think like that because I hated that environment. I absolutely hated it. So it was a very big motivating factor for me to run away from that environment as fast and as hard as possible to get away from that as far as possible. So that's why at such an early age, whenever I find opportunities to make money, I was like, I want to do that. I want to do this. I want to do that. I can make money here. I can make money there. I played poker. I sucked at it, but all these different things. Um, Anything that can make me money legally. I've never done any sort of like illegal stuff, which actually I'm now looking back, I'm very, very grateful for, because how my parents raised me up. Because there were times, and I'll be honest, like I have some friends that dealt drugs and stuff like that. I could have done something easily for them, right? Like they would have paid me a couple $100 a day to like do whatever. I could have easily have done them. And as sometimes I think about this a lot, actually, is as hungry as I was, as money oriented I was, I never actually went down that path, which I'm really, really, really glad about now looking back.
Yeah, especially now with your growth, and having anything in the baggage. Because whenever I see like a politician or something like that, even
Right.
run for anything, not to say that you're going to go into politics or anything like that. I don't know what your future holds, but
Yeah.
all that baggage in the past, he'll always come up because there's always enemies, especially when you start growing the way that you've grown very
Yeah.
rapidly in a very short amount of time. Some people are just like very emotionally driven, and some people are very resentful, and they will try to find something if they feel wronged or anything like that, because you just can't help how other people feel. And if you have some sort of baggage in the background, or especially like legal drugs, you can make a ton of enemies inside of that field, and it will end up popping up maybe years later. Like you won't even know what the second order consequences are. A really good book on this is by Nassim Taleb. I think it's called The Black Swan, I believe, or black swan theory, something like that, where it's first order consequences meaning second order consequences, and a second order consequence, first order consequence of doing like illegal drugs or trying to make huge amount of money either illegally, or that's kind of sketchy or not morally right. A second order consequence could be, yeah, it might come in backfire in the future, even though you might have made a lot of money in the beginning, but you might have maybe rubbed someone the wrong way, and then they know someone, and then they start talking and stuff, and that's never really a good idea in
Yeah.
the future. So yeah, thanks for sharing that. Not a whole lot of people end up sharing stories like that.
Yeah. It's
And
all coming back, like
yeah.
it's a lot of it is like you don't think about it. Earlier I had a talk with a copywriter, and we talked for an hour and a half because he needs to know a little bit more about my story and stuff. Um, and yeah, a lot of these stories come back, but they're interesting.
Do you think that sometimes people end up being too comfortable, that we all are very complacent right now, be it with the technology that we have, the way our society is kind of felt like there's no better time in human history? Like there's a lot of faults with what goes on in society, but today, really, we have the best that there ever has been. We have technology now in like our pockets with smartphones that have more computing power than the same computers that they use to put people on the moon. And so, do you think that people have become pretty complacent and almost too comfortable now in society, where they don't want to push themselves forward? Just kind of like yourself, where they don't have that background of living kind of almost in poverty, and but a lot of times, sometimes people I don't mean to say this in a wrong way. Sometimes people end up being comfortable living in poverty, um,
Hmm.
and staying stationary because that's all that
Hmm.
they know, and that's what they're actually like subconsciously they're comfortable with.
Hmm.
Do you think we as a society right now that we're almost too comfortable and too complacent with where we are?
Yeah, I think entitlement is huge. It's especially in the Western society. Look, the world is a very big place, and every different part of the world, different continent, different countries, we have different culture and different things. But Western society is, I would say, is definitely very entitled. Um, look how many protests there's been for the certain things. One of the things like environmental protest, and I understand that that's awareness, but I can tell you that right now, let's say 100,000 people showed up to the protest in Vancouver a few months ago. I'll tell you that right now 80-90% of them are not doing anything right now. They just want to be a part of a movement. I'm very, very positive of that. um but I was having this argument with my girlfriend. I'm like, protests don't do shit. If you want to save the environment, look at what Elon Musk is doing. Tesla, going to Mars and all these different things. A protest is not going to do anything. You're protesting to rely on someone else to do something. You're trying to raise some sort of awareness so the government can come step in. The government, who are listening to this right now, I'll tell you this right now, okay? The government is not going to come save you. No one's going to come save you. Justin Trudeau is definitely not going to come save you, okay? If you are hoping that one day Trump or Justin Trudeau is going to come to your door and give you a big fat check so that your life can be better, I'm sorry, dear. You have to wake up right now. That is not happening. You need to predict your own future, and the best way to predict your own future is to plan it out and actually act upon it. So, entitlement, for those who want to save the planet, don't just keep protesting. Go and better yourself, invest in yourself, learn something that will ban plastic, learn something that will ban fossil or whatever, fossil
Like
fuel.
plastic products.
Yeah, and there's there's um whatever, like the cow's fart literally contributes a lot to the pollution that we're currently experiencing. So look at Beyond Meat. They're a big company and they're trying to cut down on eating meat. Whether their stuff is good healthy or not, that's for a different debate. But I feel like if you really want to change the world, change yourself first. Invest in yourself, change yourself, start changing yourself first, start changing the people around you, and then you can work on a bigger plan, bigger vision. So many people that are out there to try to change the world, they're not even changing themselves. They're coming home at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, tired, quote, quote, tired, and watching TV and Netflix all night. How do you expect to change the world if you're watching Netflix for 5 hours a night, watching whatever show there is on Netflix? It just doesn't, it can't happen.
It's my
Um,
slacktivism, dude. What are you talking about? I
yeah,
watched the whole like 5 hour series on the environment. Like I
yeah.
did my part today.
Mhm. So I'm very much so, like, even when I run Facebook ads, I have so many people hating on me, and that's completely okay because you got to be at a pretty weird spot in your life if you're hating on someone on social media that you don't know and you're just like, oh, like, I hate this guy. Like, I can't imagine that person to be super happy with their life. But a lot of them like, oh, this is a scam because I teach other people how to sell on Amazon. I'm like, and I literally say this on my Facebook ads. I'm like, if you think this is a scam, don't just comment on my ad and say this is a scam. I want you to pick up the I want you to pick up the phone right now and call 911 and report me to the police or to some sort of a jurisdiction or department that will basically put me away for scamming people, which obviously I'm not. But what the point I'm trying to make is take action. Don't just be a keyboard warrior and hide behind a computer and do certain things. That actually doesn't solve any sort of problems. If you want to solve any sort of problems, go out there and actually get it done. So that's obviously an extreme example, but I think comfort is definitely key. Earlier, it's funny when you were saying that, there's technology and devices these days that enables us to be so connected, to make so much money and opportunities and so on and so forth. I was at lunch just now with a buddy, and we're just literally talking about that. We're like, there's literally people with a YouTube channel, and all they do is they turn on camera and they eat food. They eat food and they get paid hundreds of thousands of dollars of other people watching them eat food. I'm like, the saying's like, that sounds too good to be true. Guys, the world is changing at such a rapid pace. If you still have that mentality of skeptical, like everything, I'm sorry, you're getting left behind. But if you have the open mindedness and you're seeing so much possibilities and opportunities everywhere, the world is your oyster. Like, you can do anything off a laptop and your cell phone right now, and you can create a massive business or whatever you want to create, essentially.
Love it. Absolutely love all that advice. Especially, I think I saw somewhere, I don't know who it was. It was some Twitch person. They sold their bathwater online, and I was
Mm,
like used bathwater. I think it was like maybe like 500 mils or something, and they sold it for a couple grand. I'm like, that is freaking nuts. It's just used bathwater, but that's just the way that we're living in today. And I
yeah.
really, really loved your advice about sorting yourself out first. Really good book, and I think you might have read it. It was 12 Rules for Life by Jordan Peterson, where he literally just says, clean your own room first before you start cleaning up the world. And
Yeah.
that is just amazing advice, because
Can,
that's
can,
one of
can,
the things that I saw from the climate protests. Like, I've been vegan now for almost 6 years. So I went plant-based 100% for my environmental impact, as well as like moral reasons and stuff like that. And it's really amazing to see people that are like super gung-ho about the environment. Then you actually start talking to them about some of the issues. But it's like what you said, everyone just wants to be a part of a community. Everyone just wants to be in. Everyone just wants a good Instagram photo at the end of the day.
yeah. Can you imagine if everybody took care of themselves instead of worrying about what other people are doing and whoever's around them doing? If everybody gave 100% of their attention to themselves to improve their wealth, their health, their spirituality, their mood, the world would be the best place ever. Like, so yeah, it all starts with yourself, and then from there you can impact more people. I didn't start hosting classes my first day of selling on Amazon. I got my sales up to $3 million, $1.8 million. Now I have the money, I have the resources. Now I'm like, wow, okay, now I'm in a good place where I can actually help other people to achieve this. I didn't just start helping other people day one because I needed to help myself first.
No, exactly, 100%. Especially when you mentioned, oh, what was it? It just slipped my mind right now. I'll get back to that in a second. But yeah, it was just one of those things where you have to. Oh yeah, it was about activism, where you're just saying like, hey, why don't you, instead of like going out, maybe blockading streets or disrupting other people's day, which it actually causes maybe a lot more resentment
Yeah.
over your issues, maybe start like a fundraiser, maybe start your own business so that you can actually solve that problem instead of making it other people's problem at the end of the day. That was a recollection that I had maybe about a month ago or so, when I was just kind of thinking to myself, and I was like, well, why don't these people just kind of start their own businesses where they can try to solve that problem, where they can make a whole bunch of money right at the beginning, and then they can use that to fuel maybe some activist endeavors, maybe fuel a nonprofit, something along those lines, instead of just kind of like whining about it or sharing a few posts on Instagram.
Yeah, it's like, I'm sure Canada Goose, they get so much hate, and there's a group of people that absolutely hate Canada Goose because Canada Goose unethically used this fur, that fur, whatever. And then what these people do during the protests is they will, verbally, or I don't think there's any physical attack, maybe, but verbally attack people that wear Canada Goose. And they also put up posters everywhere in downtown that says like, douche Canada douche instead of Canada Goose with the Canada Goose logo. I'm like, if you really hate Canada Goose as much as you hate it, the best way for you to quote unquote protest is actually for you to come up with an alternative that looks better than Canada Goose, that is cheaper than Canada Goose, that has better branding than Canada Goose, that has XYZ whatever, and you put them out of business, because that is ultimately, it's a war. It's a game with business. There's competitors. You start a company to put them out of business, and that is the best way to get rid of Canada Goose, and they'll be gone forever. Don't put up posters in downtown Vancouver. That's literally not going to do anything. If someone comes up to me and say, "You're a douchebag for wearing Canada Goose," oh, I'm so sorry. I don't want to look like a douchebag in front of you. Let me go return my Canada Goose right now. Says no one ever. Like, it just doesn't happen. So it's the mentality of action, right? It all comes down to action. Don't just talk about it. Don't just think about it. If you really want to do something, if you have an intention, obviously, hopefully it's not hurtful intention. Go do something about it. Take action on it, and slowly over time, you can actually build something.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I actually get into a few arguments with people in my community just about that, because I use that as an example of just kind of like it's shock activism, but they but a lot of people in my community, especially in the vegan community, they really like gung ho. It's all about kind of like shock activism, when you could put the same amount of energy and the same amount of effort, instead of focusing on hatred,
Yeah.
anything along those lines, you can focus on putting them out of business. It's like when I look at, say, Chow cheese, for example, that's available in pretty much almost all supermarkets now, like Whole Foods, Safeway, as a direct competitor of dairy cheese, for example.
Hmm.
It blows me away. Like, I would have friends that won't even know that it's not that the milk didn't come from a cow or a goat or something like that, that didn't come from an animal, because it just tastes so much better than just regular cheese, and they
Dude,
just have
I
no
don't
idea.
even know where milk comes from these days. One
Yeah.
day I have almond milk, next I have oatmeal. I'm like, almond have titties, Like,
Gotta
where?
just milk them. You
How
gotta
does the
milk them
milk
right.
come from almond?
Oh,
But yeah,
that's funny.
I don't even
Yeah,
know what I'm drinking these days anymore.
yeah, yeah. I don't either. I think Starbucks, I think they recently said that they're getting rid of all dairy milk or something like that, either at the end of this year or next year or something. So now they're
Oh
just gonna
wow,
have
that's
like,
huge.
yeah. So now they're just gonna have a whole bunch of like every single assortment of any milk other than dairy, which is really really good for my stance, and it's good for a company to be able to do it, because that means that a lot more people that are on the ethical side will end up actually going there for business and stuff. But yeah, let's touch on a little bit about FBA then, and how you got started. I'm really interested because there was some guy that saw you selling hoverboards over on Craigslist, because Craigslist is huge in Vancouver. I have a lot of friends from Toronto that come out from here or Montreal, and they have no idea how big Craigslist is until they like get to Vancouver. Vancouver, that's where like most of the commerce is. Like, even Facebook Marketplace is like decent, but Craigslist is still where most people end up like buying and selling stuff, especially in the lower mainland. So how did this guy find you when he offered to start selling those products for you on Amazon?
Um, Sorry, can you repeat your question one more time?
Yeah, for
What
sure.
was your question?
How did the guy who, I don't know how he met up with you or how he messaged you, the one that said that he wanted to put your boards onto Amazon to start selling them?
Yeah, so he just randomly messaged me through mutual friend, and he's like, "Hey, I know you're selling hoverboards. I was gonna sell these hoverboard anyway, but since you already have stock, you can save me a bunch of time. In exchange, I can sell them faster, and we'll just do a 50-50 cut." And I was like, "Absolutely sure." So he just got a bunch of photos from me, about her copywriting from me. He set up everything on his own account, and then literally like the day after, like sales started coming in. He was running like PPC, pay per click, and I was like, what the hell is going on? Like, who's buying these? How are you making it so easy? Like, you did this in one day. Like, I'm like, what? Like, what is this? Like, what is Amazon? Because at the time, I didn't buy anything on Amazon at all. So yeah, that's how I kind of discovered Amazon, and I wanted to learn from him. And he was kind of secretive about what he was doing, so I kind of had to learn everything myself.
So he wasn't really your mentor or anything. He was more of a business partner then.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So how did you start going into it? Like, it's such a huge process for any sort of going into any online business, e-com, drop shipping, social media marketing, build out an agency. There's so many different avenues they can do, as well as affiliate marketing, which is where you pretty much got your start doing online stuff, which I didn't even know that you're doing that for Tangerine, which is
But
pretty amazing.
that's not really like that's not really affiliate marketing. That's just like literally hustling. Like
Yeah, yeah,
affiliate
yeah.
marketing, I didn't have a website. I was like messaging people on Facebook. But
Yeah.
it's, I guess, like if you can put it somewhere, it's in the realm of like affiliate marketing. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah, 100%. Did they ever have a cap, by the way? Because
No,
I've done the
no, no,
same
no.
with, yeah, because I've done the same with like American Express right now. I have a video on my YouTube page where I've been able to get like nearly like, or roughly around like 100,000 points of Amex
Mm,
points with a video on
shit.
my channel, just with like promoting the American Express Gold Card, pretty much just like the travel insurance and the travel benefits that you end up getting with it. Because I
Mm-hmm,
know the card probably costs, I think it's like 125 bucks or something, or 150 bucks. So you kind of have to
mm-hmm.
sell it in a different way. So I was able to do that, but I think there's a yearly cap with it. I'm not quite sure what it is, but yeah, that's why I was just curious at the time if Tangerine even had like a cap or whatever for sharing a link.
Right, right, right.
Yeah, which
Yeah.
they didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty nuts. So, what was some of the things that you had to learn right at the beginning when starting out with FBA? Was it copywriting? Was it running
So
advertisements?
yeah.
There's a plethora of different avenues that you can
S-
approach Amazon FBA.
So the first thing is finding the product. Like you need to find a product. So when it comes to product research, there's a set of criteria that I personally look for. For example, the product needs to have a lot of demand on Amazon. You can use a tool like Viral Launch to see the demand. Then you basically look for competition. You don't want to find a product that has tons of competition. How I look at competition is based on reviews. And then I look at if this is brand dominated. For example, I would never sell tissue because the first thing that I say tissue, people think of Kleenex. You don't want to go against like a company that is as big as Kleenex. Then I look for products that are a little bit smaller, not hard to use, not easy to break. Because if it breaks, if it's hard to use, people will leave you negative reviews. I look for products that have a lot of sales depth. What that means is I don't want to the first 3 or 4 people making a lot of money and no one else is making money. I want to see more of a depth to the market. That shows me that you don't need to be number one to make tons of money. You can be number 5, 6, 7, 10, 20, so on and so forth. So these are some of the criteria that I personally look for. But if I can just summarize that in one simple sentence, high demand, low competition, right? If you can find something like that, then you're good. So that's step one. And then step two is starting to contact manufacturers. So when you contact manufacturers, one of the most important things is like, don't ask them, be like, hey, I want to buy coffee cups. You need to be an expert of your product. So how many ounces? What is it made out of? Do you want straws? Do you want design? Do you want non-grip or grip? So the more you research and the more things that you look for in a product, the more of an expert you become. So they will deem you as an expert. They won't just give you crazy prices. They'll be like, oh, this person, first of all, knows what they're looking for. Second of all, probably easier to deal with, more professional. So they'll actually work with you, give you more of a priority. Once you source the product, you then need to ship everything to Amazon. And a lot of people gets confused at how to ship things to Amazon. Super easy. You just use a service called freight forwarder. A freight forwarder is someone who literally takes up all your shipping. So you tell them where your product is, how, like they'll ask you some questions like how many products are you shipping? What is the weight of each box? These different things. And essentially, they will actually get your product shipped directly to Amazon. Once your product arrives in Amazon, you now want to be able to actually rank the product on Amazon. So when it comes to ranking the product on Amazon, Amazon really cares about something called sales velocity. So if your products cannot generate any sales on Amazon's platform, they don't want to put you on page one because you're not getting traction. But if you can generate a lot of sales on Amazon, then Amazon would like to put you a little bit higher above everybody else. So that's really it. If you can master those 3 steps and you just rinse and repeat, you can actually grow a pretty successful business. And I think a lot of people ask me like, what is one example of a product that you sell? Like I'm literally talking about products that you probably see in your bedrooms right now. Like I don't invent any sort of products. I'm not a product designer or a developer. I literally find an opportunity and I find a supplier and I just attack that market. We sell everything from disposable coffee cups to ice ball molds to scrunchies to whatever. Like as long as there's an opportunity for me to get in, I don't mind, getting in. So
So with Amazon FBA, you don't need to start a brand or a company or anything like that because it's all just straight to Amazon.
well, you are going to start a brand. You're selling your own brand on Amazon. Amazon is just your sales channel. There's no difference between Amazon and eBay or Craigslist. They're just channels, right? They're marketplaces. So we're starting our own brand. We're getting a logo done, putting on the product. Now it's called Tom's, whatever. And then I'm starting up a brand. And over time, what you can do is you can actually, build that brand off of Amazon, right?
Yeah, 100%. Or be able to grow different social media networks because the number one thing is growing an email list as well for any sort of like online community. Is that something that is used with Amazon FBA in accordance where you're able to grow an email list, or is that a lot of the
Not
time just
really.
kept in Amazon?
Yeah, that's so you don't get so the only downside of Amazon's business, and this is probably literally the downside, is is the fact that you don't get the customer's information.
Mhm.
because at the end of the day, those are Amazon's customers, and they don't want you to be like marketing your product to them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. So with that being said, because Amazon, they have sticky cookies, don't they?
sticky cookies, I'm not too familiar
Oh,
with that.
kind of like where if someone were to click through on a certain link or a certain product or whatnot, and they don't purchase, say, right away, but if they come back, maybe say at the end of the day, if they see an ad or they see a link that gets shared and they click on the ad and they don't necessarily purchase the beginning of the day, but maybe they purchase maybe 12, 13 hours. Is that still that's still considered a sale through your product because it's strictly through your own brand, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's absolutely amazing because you can the scalability with it because Amazon's really good. Amazon's gotten like so amazing with where they for product placement as well as recently I think it's like recently packaged together products as well as upsells. Amazon's very very good with upsells if you have a whole bunch of different products on your for your brand that all complement each other. Do you see a lot more uptick from not necessarily say you're running do you run the ads to drive them to Amazon or does Amazon do the advertising for you?
No, we actually use Amazon PPC.
Mhm.
It's Amazon's internal pay per click. So it's very similar to Google ads. If you guys ever go on Google, type in whatever, you will see a bunch of ads. So on Amazon, same thing. So we use that a lot. Sometimes we do use Facebook advertising as well to drive traffic, more traffic to our listing. At the end of the day, Amazon really, really likes a lot of traffic. And to be honest, like the more traffic you drive from external traffic sources such as Facebook, Google, Amazon really likes that because now you're giving Amazon more customers. So they'll actually even boost you a little bit higher into the algorithm.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice. Yeah, yeah. That's one of the cool things, like with Amazon, is that like they almost kind of benefit you when you take traffic away from other sources and you give it to them. Then it's kind of they will promote you and boost you up because you've pretty much have done them a favor by taking them off of another platform and putting them onto their platform, which is absolutely crazy. Do you find that is there a big difference between lower price products versus higher price products then? Be it or is it just kind of like a supply and demand thing where you put the right product in front of the right person and it doesn't matter what the price is?
So I usually like to sell products that are under $50. That's because that's kind of in the impulse purchase zone, I would say. So people don't really think twice. Like if you're purchasing like a $300 microphone, you're probably going on YouTube, you're probably going on like different websites to read reviews. I want people to basically just find a product that's like, okay, cool photos, great reviews, good price. Let me buy now. Um, so I sell products that are a little bit cheaper, under $50. But going forward, we're definitely experimenting with some products that are a little bit more expensive because it's a little bit less competitive. A lot of beginners can't get into that niche. So yeah,
And I like how you say niche, not niche, right?
yeah,
I always
yeah.
get in a
I'm
debate
the
with my
niche guy.
girlfriend. Yeah, yeah. I always get in a debate with my girlfriend because she says niche. So whenever I say niche and she's in like the same room, if I'm on like a call or something like that, she'll always just give me like a blank stare. Like it's like one of those trigger words that you have to
Yeah.
say like a certain way. But yeah, yeah, that's just absolutely awesome. That's why you're the guy for Amazon. You're so knowledgeable with Amazon FBA because you've been doing it since 2015, correct?
17. It's when
17.
I late 2015 is when I first like discovered it.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, but
Yeah, you're super knowledgeable on Amazon FBA, especially here in the local Vancouver area. You host a ton of events. I remember going out and helping out a little bit with some like audio, video help. I think it was like last year, the CBC studios in downtown Vancouver
yeah, yeah.
for yourself. And yeah, how often now are you hosting events? And is that a big driver for your other side for your training business?
Yeah, so I host events probably once every month, twice every month, maybe something like that. And I love it. It's great to present this opportunity to other local Vancouverites, just because it is a pretty expensive city to live in. Definitely one of the most expensive cities in the world. And some people's solution to that is actually by moving further and further away. So to me, that's like running away from your problems. Your problem is not the fact that Vancouver is actually expensive. The problem is the fact that you don't know how to like make more money. Because things are going to get more expensive. Like 20 years down the road, we're probably going to be like, wow, back in 2020, gas was only $150, you know? So things are definitely going to get more expensive. So I feel like you're running away from your problems than confronting them. So yeah, I just want to be able to actually help out local people. Like, I'm going to give you my step-by-step process and how I do things. It's up to you if you want to actually implement them or not, because that's the hard part. I can teach Amazon to 1,000 people, maybe 20% of them will actually take action. So that's just like the 80-20 rule applies anywhere else in life as well, which is really interesting.
Yeah, the Pareto
Um,
distribution. Yeah.
yeah. So for me, the coaching business is great. The big difference between the coaching business is the fact that coaching business is all cash, meaning that people pay, for their seat. There's not a lot of cost. There's no inventory. Whereas Amazon is very cash intensive, so it's very cash heavy. But on the other side of that is with the coaching business, I have a lot of people that I need to deal with, right? A lot of students that I need to answer questions and hop on weekly calls. With Amazon, is super passive. Like, customers first, they contact Amazon, they might contact us, but I have a customer service team that takes care of everything. It's quite hands off. And Amazon's business is something that is sellable, so you can actually sell this business. With my coaching business, is not. So a lot of people ask me which one you like better. I'm more passionate about teaching. It's really fun for me, but at the same time, Amazon is also great because it's literally a business that you can do from anywhere in the world. Whereas for the teaching, I got to be in Vancouver. So I could be other places, but it's not that easy. Like, I just spent a month in Thailand. I was making money on Amazon, but I wasn't making any money with my coaching business because I was in Thailand. So, yeah, so that's pros and cons to everything. So.
No, exactly. Yeah, that's a very similar story with me as well. And that's one of the reasons why I started doing advertising and having my own advertising agency. I always wanted to be a teacher as a kid. I had a few really, really awesome teachers that I really wanted to propel myself and become a teacher. I actually wanted to go get my education degree. And then I started looking at the stats. I started looking at the numbers. I graduated in 2011. And I think that at that point, I remember having so many friends that have been teachers, especially substitute teachers, that haven't gotten a teaching job in maybe like 5-6 years. So they were stuck they paid for a whole degree. So they went to school to get their undergrad plus their education portion for it. So I think it was like 5-6 years in school. And then another like 5-6 years of becoming a substitute teacher, or just going from like maybe a contract job or something like that. Nothing that was ever that stationary. And that really freaked me out. So I was like, oh, I was going to go to school to maybe get a job in 11 years or so, maybe get a full-time job, stable job. And that was never really appealing to me, but I always wanted to be a teacher. So that's why I really wanted to dive deep into a high income skill, which is something that you did as well with Amazon FBA, and be able to teach other people that. And that's what we both do on our YouTube channels. Like, it's really amazing, like going through my stats. Your stats are a lot higher than mine because you have 10,000 followers. I think now I just have under 700. And it's really cool to see that I'm able to help 200 people a day. That just goes on to my YouTube channel. And I'm like, if I was teaching in a classroom, I would probably only affect maybe 20 to 80 people a day if I was doing elementary or high school. So just looking at it just from a stat standpoint, the impact is just so much greater today with something that we're doing. Instead of doing the traditional teaching method, we're going along and doing something that's more not the mainstream for teaching. But I think that it's beginning to become a lot more mainstream as more and more people start to wake up to the traditional education system, which is amazing, because that was actually going to be a follow-up question, which I'm sure you get a lot, is which one do you like more? Do you like to do Amazon more, or do you like teaching more? And
Yeah.
I kind of knew that you like to do teaching a lot more.
Yeah.
I appreciate your time, Tom. I have a couple more questions
Yeah.
left, and then we'll just do a quick wrap up and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
I appreciate your time and taking the time out of your day to do this. So with that being said, with the training business, you have to be a lot more in person for that. So do you host events outside of Vancouver, or is it just solely inside of Vancouver for face-to-face training?
I will have online course coming out pretty soon for people outside of Vancouver, but right now it's only Vancouver.
Cool. How many students do you currently have going through your program?
Last year I taught like 700-ish. Yeah.
That's really big numbers, especially in Vancouver. Vancouver's a very kind of, like we say, like Vancouver's like a decent sized market, but Vancouver's still a pretty small market, relatively speaking, for like all of North America. So 700 students just locally in Vancouver, that's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
and especially if it's in person as well.
Yeah.
How big is your classroom size then when you're teaching, or is it just kind of depend on how many people for which given month?
There are about 60 people. So I have me, my helpers. Yeah. So it's not just like, yeah, it's not too big. I get them to do, I get a lot, my students do a lot of like in-person work, exercises and stuff like that. So it's good.
Is it a 4-week program, 12-week program, or a
S-
weekend?
So it's a weekend program, but they also get my online course afterwards. So they can watch the online course. And I also do weekly calls as well. So it's not like, oh, like, here's a weekend. Nice to meet you. Bye bye. Like
Peace out.
it's ongoing.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, that's really incredible, especially like the face-to-face component, especially in the beginning. I think that's a lot more meaningful because so many people start just doing a course first thing, and without
Yeah.
having that in person touch or whatnot, which I think is like very important, especially for like teaching skills and public speaking skills as well. It's really good to see people in person have that interaction as well. So you have a very, very, I don't want to say unique approach to it, but in our field for digital marketing, instead of just solely just doing everything 100% online, you have more of that face-to-face encounter, which I think a lot more people end up being more enthusiastic with the work that they get into, and they're not as likely to just like go on and purchase $1,000 like program where it might be like 6 weeks or something like that worth of videos, and then they go on and watch 2 videos and then they're done, they're out of there,
Yeah.
instead of just going out there for one intense weekend and just diving in and learning things, like having your own sheets in front of you, actually physically writing things down, which I think is a huge component that's missing inside of a lot of the online communities, where it's just kind of like plug and play, here are the videos, without actually questioning anything.
Yeah.
So yeah, I commend you for that. That's absolutely awesome. But like I said, legend inside of the Vancouver community, man. 700 students is like, that's more than a lot of university teachers.
Yeah.
If you put
Yeah.
it into perspective, and they're probably paying
That's
you, yeah, they're probably paying you a lot more than what the more normal university teacher ends up paying or ends up getting as well. So uh,
yeah.
yeah, with that being said, I asked this with do you have any, what's your upcoming events then, just before I ask one of my last questions, what are some of your upcoming events here in Vancouver then?
Doing one next Tuesday. If you just go to like tomwangconsulting.com, or better, if you follow me on Instagram, is tom.com.ig. I post quite frequently. So yeah.
Yeah, all those links, by the way, anyone that's watching, if you haven't subscribed already, hit the subscribe button down below, turn on post notifications, because every single week we're going to have really awesome interviews with guys like Tom on this page. So yeah, keep an eye out for more interviews, and all of those links that Tom mentioned for his Instagram, his consulting business, it's all going to be down in the description of this video. So yeah, with that being said, my last question, whenever I ask this of everyone who I interview, because I always get a different response from people, because it's very personal.
Mm.
So if you could be any type of animal, be it domestic or wild, what animal would you be and why?
The first thing that comes to my mind is like probably a lion. I'm a Leo, so that could be it. I think lions are just so majestic. Like they're, the male lions with the mane that, like, in the wind, it just looks so fucking cool. Like one of those pictures. And they hang out in packs. They have a pride. So lions pretty cool. I think eagles are pretty cool too. I know I can only pick one, but I'm just giving you a couple ideas of what I'm thinking. Eagle is pretty cool as well. I feel like they just don't really have too many predators, except for like, I guess, snakes that can go up in the trees and grab them. But
Or
you
that
know,
octopus. If you saw that video of the octopus taking down the eagle, I think that was a couple weeks ago in like House Sound. It was somewhere in
no,
House Sound or like in a lake somewhere, where like an eagle would like swoop in a little too close, and the octopus just grabbed it and just started
oh shit.
wanting to bring it down, and people had to like come in and like save the eagle and like take away all the claws, all the
Okay, I don't want to be eagle
the
anymore. I don't
octopus.
want to be eagle anymore.
Yeah, but eagle and lion, like both of them are very similar, because top
Yeah,
of the food chain, and they're kind of like the overseer a little bit, where an eagle kind of sits on top of the tree, looks down on everything, and yeah, I really like that. That really much resonates with yourself.
yeah.
Tom, is there any other social links or anything like that that you'd like to share, and where can people find you?
Just my YouTube channel, Tom Wang, Instagram, Tom DOTCOM, so like tom.com.ig. Yeah, those are pretty much, and then the Tom Wang Show. I also have a podcast as well. So that's yeah, I interview like local entrepreneurs. So that's a pretty cool spot that you can find me as well.
Sweet. Awesome. Thank you, Tom. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to do this interview. And yeah, if you got some value from this video, I would very much appreciate if you give me a thumbs up on this video if you're catching it all the way to the end here. Also, subscribe if you haven't subscribed already before, because I have way more upcoming interviews just like this one, jam-packed full of value. So, Tom, thank you once again for joining me today, and have a great rest of your day.
Awesome. Sounds good.